Hi, Brad Wood. I'm a landscape photographer, wildlife outdoor photographer. I also enjoy taking pictures of the ships and that in the Great Lakes. And I was approached recently by a company called Kase and asked if I would be interested in reviewing some of their filters that they use. And so I was quite excited about it. I did a little bit of research on them and saw they were a very reputable company and they had a very unique, practical product. I haven't done reviews in the past, and I thought this was maybe a great opportunity. I haven't been paid anything. They did give me a set of the filters to try out. And so I've had them for a day now and opened up the case and went through it. And I'd just like to go through it and tell you a little bit about what my thoughts are. This is the box that it comes in, KW Revolution Plus, and it was very well packaged. It had manuals in there, a nice filter for cleaning your lenses, and all the basic instructions on using it, very practical and easy to follow. The case they have for storing them in is really nice. It's a good, durable, hard case with zippers closed so you won't get any dust or anything in it. I like the idea of that carabiner on the top. They can hook onto my pack or on my belt and be able to carry them around very portably. So the kit that I got comes with a retaining ring. There's a UV filter. It also helps to protect the lens. Circular polarizing filter. And also a lens cap. And also with it comes a small tool that you can use for putting the adapter ring onto your camera. The filters are something that I put a filter on all my lenses to protect them from being damaged. It's just a UV filter, a clear filter like this one. And they're excellent, and they have saved me quite a few times. Anytime that I've had a lens damaged, it's because I didn't put one of these on. So I do use those. However, I used to always use my circular polarizer, especially for landscape. And I must admit that I got lazy over the years, and it takes a lot of work to screw them on and screw them off. And they do take a little bit of light away from your images. And I do a lot in the early mornings and evenings when sometimes the polarizer is not, I don't want to have the polarizer on. So I eventually just got to the point where I just didn't carry it with me anymore. So this, I think, system is going to help me to get back into using my polarizer and being more dynamic and thoughtful in how I use filters in my photography. So I'm just going to use this lens as my base. These are all 77 millimeter threads that were sent to me, and they match my 50 to 200 millimeter Sony G lens. It's an old lens, but it's really treated me well. It's been got teeth marks on it from being taken away by a hyena, and it's been taken through the desert and the sea and everywhere, but keeps going. So in order to mount these, there's an adapter ring, and it's quite thoughtful because it goes right inside the threads of the lens and sits down deeply, making it the filters closer to the lens and less chance that you're going to get any vignetting. So to put this ring on first, I found it was easiest just to attach it to the filter, and then you can just easily thread it. So I say this is an old lens. It's been through a lot, and the threads are probably damaged a little bit, but it goes on very well. And there's also this little tool with some little guides in here. You set it into, and you can just snug it up. I have had my filters unthread and lost them in the past, so I do suggest keeping it snug. Next, to put your UV filter on, it's quite simple. It's magnetic. It just clips on there, and it holds on quite securely, and works great. And then the cover, instead of putting your regular cover on, you can just put this magnetic cover on, and it comes on and off quite easily. It's a little bit tight to catch your fingers on. If you had gloves on in that, it might be a little difficult. But one of the nice things is that the lens hood fits on great right on top of it. One of the things I do find difficult, though, is to get the cover off once you've got your lens hood on. Is very difficult. So you probably have to take the lens hood off to take the cover off. So you got to get your mind in the right habit of taking this off before I put my lens hood on. And that might be a little bit of a trouble for me, because I do have my system set up that in my case, I quite often leave the lens hood on. So I can see that I might get lazy and not be putting my cover on. However, I did check, and my old Sony lens hood or lens cover does fit on top. So you don't have to use the magnetic one. And I can reach in, because this has the grips, and take it off. The other one is your circular polarizing lens. Use this quite often to manage reflections. You can reduce reflections and some of the light diffraction in the sky, and it'll richen and deepen the colors. And it clips on quite easily, and you can put it right over top of your UV filter. You don't have to take it off. I've had a look, and I don't see any signs of any vignetting, which you can get when you start to get thicker glass on, but because it's inset, I think that prevents it from getting the vignetting. And it rotates quite easily. And when I put my lens hood on again, it fits right over top. And my lens hood has a little window in it there, so I can easily adjust the angle of the polarizer to determine how much polarization I want. So we use a polarizing filter to selectively allow light waves through the lens and into the camera sensor. When natural light reaches our camera, there's a lot of scattered effects that come from the atmosphere and from the materials in which the light has encountered on its way to your camera. By adjusting the angle of the filter, we can either dial in or dial out those distracting light rays. So the following images, which I'm going to show you, are using the Kase filter, and either at its extreme level, where it is filtering out most of the scattered light, which is the second image, or the first image, which is minimizing and allowing all the scattered light to reach the camera sensor. They've all been processed the same way, although I've done a little bit of adjustment to the exposure on each of the images, just to balance them so that they look the same, because when you filter out all of that light, your image will be a little bit darker. So let's have a look at the images. The first set of images is of Lake Erie and a ship coming into the Welland Canal. You can see that the sky is sort of muted out a bit in the first image, but when we apply the polarizing filter, it deepens the sky, the blues in the sky, and also enriches the colors and makes the whites pop much brighter. There's more definition in the sky, and it makes it more interesting and attractive in the image. The second set of images is of a toy car that I took on a reflective surface. It was during one of our photography club exercises, workshops that we did. And you can see that when the polarizer is applied fully, it takes away most of the reflections, and it actually mutes the car. You don't see a lot of detail in it. But by enhancing the reflections and bringing them out with the polarizer turned the opposite direction, you can really get a real nice effect. And I like to use this in car shows and that to try and bring out the reflections of the cars. And sometimes we can get the reflection of the people looking at the car or of the sky in the car, which can be quite interesting. The next set of images is of a back of a tugboat, a sea hound, and you can see when the polarizer is not applied, there's a lot of reflection in the water, and you can't really see into the water. It almost looks white. When we apply the polarizer, we can see down into the water more, and it gives it a much richer color. You can see more detail in the side of the ship, and it just makes it a lot more interesting shot. The next pair of images is of the Viking Octantis cruise ship coming into the Welland Canal. And in this one, you don't see a big change in the sky. And that's because we're actually shooting more towards the sun. When you are using a polarizer, the effects of the polarization are more extreme when you're pointing perpendicular to where the sun is coming up or going down. Or to the sun's direction. So in this case, we see a lot of reflection in the water when we don't apply the polarization. And when we apply it, it makes the water much deeper. We see the details in the waves and the wind blowing across the lake, and it gives a much different effect. I like both of these effects, but they give a different feel. So you can start to use the polarization to get more artistic and create the feel that you want in the image. My last pair of images here is actually of some storm clouds starting to build over Lake Erie. And as the CSL Welland is heading out into the lake, it was a nice calm day and you could see the reflections. Without the polarization, it's fairly flat image, and you don't see a lot of detail in the sky. But once you apply the polarization, you can get a lot more richer definition in the clouds, and also in the reflection gets more color into the reflection. It almost is a bit of a warmer image. I haven't adjusted the white balance here, and so it does give a much different feel to the image. And this is certainly one area where when I get storm clouds, I love to use a polarizing filter. So this is a great system, I think, and very practical. I can see myself using it regularly as a routine. The Kase is excellent. However, I probably won't need to carry this around too much because I can really have everything on. All I need is a case for the one polarizing lens, which I could probably put in a pouch and put in my pocket. Just I need something that's a little more secure. And then it's easy to take on and off. So I think one of the things to remember, the reason I would be taking my polarizer off is because you do lose about one stop of light when you're using your polarizer. Depending on how much you adjust it, it'll take more light out. So in low light conditions, it might be better to take it off, because then you don't have also the you have to put your ISO or your speed. You put your ISO up or your speed down to adjust. These filters also are very lightweight, very easy to manage, although they feel solid. It's good glass. I haven't tested them other than looking at them and looking at my images. I don't see any change in colors. I see they seem very clear, no distortions as you look through them. But I did a lot of research also in advance, and there's some photographers, photography groups that have done tests on them and everything, and they say the color shift is almost unrecognizable. You can't see any change in colors when you use the filters, and the images are very sharp. There's no change in sharpness of the images by putting them on your lens. So I do highly recommend them. They seem very practical. I think I'm really looking forward to using them. I haven't used it a lot yet, but as soon as my weather gets a little bit better, I'll be out there and be giving them a good test, and I'll get back to you on how it goes. But I'm really excited to try them out, and really excited to get back into using my polarizing filters for my images. I think I've been losing out on a bit. I've probably been spending more time on the computer trying to get those effects digitally instead of starting from a better starting point. And so I think it's going to give me better dynamic range in my images and allow me to be more creative and spend less time trying to create what I want, but I'll have that set up for success right at the beginning while I'm taking the pictures. I really find that to get in the flow, to get good composition, to get a good image, you really don't want to be having to think a lot about your camera and about your system, and that you want to be thinking about where you are, what the environment's doing, and this is certainly going to make things much more intuitive, much more practical for use. I can see that I can get in there and I'll just feel what I need to do. I think, so just recapping, I think very practical. It's an excellent system, great quality, very versatile, being able to stack things, not worrying about vignetting. They seem to be really good build. I'm not worried that if I dropped it, I don't think it would shatter or break. I don't want to try it, but they do seem very, very secure. I think the only cons I have about it is just that, and I think this would probably be for most lenses, most filters. You have to take your lens cover off to be able to get at them, and that. I think the only thing is just the cover, and the fact that it's very difficult to get off once you have your lens hood on. But I'm sure that as I get using it, I'll find ways to adapt to that and get a system that works well, which I don't have to think about. And I think that's the big one. Not having to think about it and making use of these tools that are basic photography tools that every photographer should be comfortable with using. So I hope this helped you out a bit. One other thing I want to just mention is that I read a lot that people recommend, because you have lenses that have different sizes, threads, to go with a larger thread, and then you can get an adapter to go down for your smaller lenses. The only problem with that is you want to be sure that your lens hood will fit over top of it, because once you go to a larger thread, I have some filters that are like that. I can't fit my lens hood on, or I have to try and put it on with the lens hood on first. So just being aware of that, it can be more economical to try and get one that can fit all your lenses, and you just use an adapter. But practicality and use, I think, is the most important thing for me. So I would probably look at getting a separate set for my larger lens. I have my 200 to 600 millimeter lens, which has a 95 millimeter thread, I believe it is. And if I put a 95 millimeter thread on here, it would be wider than my lens hood, and I wouldn't be able to use my lens hood. So I find the lens hoods very important to reduce reflections on the elements, and especially if you start stacking more elements in front of your lens, there's more chances of internal reflections happening there too. So it's more important to have your lens hood on. Hope that helps, and I hope it gives you some new inspiration and ideas for your photography.